Welcome, welcome everyone. This is our Thursday morning production call, and we're going to get started. Excited about this one. Just got a ton of new agents going right now. Y'all have seen our RTWs. That means we are bringing on a lot of new agents. So we're going to go over some basics of running appointments, and we're gonna get it kicked off. Again, first, I always love to say this is an hour-long call, so please, please, please get your pen and notepad out. You are not going to remember everything we talked about, especially today, because I'm going to have you all write down 10 things, which will be the 10 basic steps of running an appointment. And we'll kind of dig into each one of them. So please have a pen and notepad out. Like I said, you're not going to remember all this. And then what we always love to say is we don't want you to go change your entire appointment. You've already helped families. You've put protection in place. What we want you to do is take about 3 or 4 of these things and then just add them, right? If you're not doing them, you want to add them to your appointment so that it can help you increase how many families you help. And then the big humble ask is we are a large community in the Cook hierarchy. If anything that you take out of this call helps you help a family, if you can post that on Band, it really does help other agents to see, right, with that a little trick or whatever it may be that you added helps a family, and they can see that and use it as well. So y'all do a great job of that. If y'all can continue to do that, we highly appreciate it. But we're going to get started. Basics of running an appointment. Again, you know, we have our scripts, right? And we have, right, just follow the system. I always feel like a new agent sometimes just feels a little bit of a little loss as they're reading through the real script. So we're going to kind of break down just the 10 important things that you're doing inside of your appointment that should make a really big difference for you. So I got some notes here. Let's see. So the big one, it's going to be, so we'll have 10 steps for y'all. So leave room for 10 steps. And what I just want to remind everyone, look, yes, you need to read it word for word. Y'all have heard this phrase before because we're going to be really talking about the real script, right? And if y'all haven't, write this down. And it's going to be, you are 8 pages away from 100K. So 8 pages away from 100K. What do I mean by that? If you have the real script, which you should, the real script is 8 pages long. And look, we make more than doctor money here, right? We talk about we're the 9th highest paying company in the country, and that means you can be making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on your own pin. Now, your insurance license that costs you about $200 or $300, depending on the state that you're in, that doesn't create that type of income, right? What's going to create that type of income is training from Symmetry, and it starts at the real script. Okay, you have to memorize. It's 8 pages. You're 8 pages away from memorizing, right, and knowing that script. And it's not hard. It's 8 pages. Realize that for a doctor to make the type of money they make, they have to go read and memorize books for 8 years and get their skill set on top of that, right? Of knowing all the answers to all their problems. We're saying 8 pages. You can memorize 8 pages to make over 100, 200, $300,000, right? 8 pages from 100K. You have to realize it's a decision you're making of not wanting to go memorize it. And everyone's like, one of the biggest questions, well, how am I supposed to memorize 8 pages? It's simple. So I want y'all to write this down. Read the real script 100 times. So you got to read the real script 100 times. Start a little stick count. I don't care where you do it, but start counting. You got to read the real script 100 times. It's going to take you a couple of weeks, and it's okay. Read it 3 or 4 times a day, word for word. Understand everything about it. It provides so much for you. It has questions you can ask. It has single and couples together. It has everything you can possibly need. all built into it. And you just have to memorize it. You have to understand its transitions. You have to understand its flow. Because once you do have it memorized, then in the appointment, you can be a little bit more fluid, right? And what do I mean by fluid is that if they interrupt you, if you change subjects, you can always bounce back to it, right? If you ever hear us running appointments, sometimes we're not saying it word for word because I don't have to go in order anymore. I know all these 10 things that I have to talk about, and no matter how I jump through it, I can always jump back into the part that I missed, right? Because maybe the conversation led me to build a little more rapport in the middle of the appointment, and that gives us a superpower. You don't have that if you're just reading it word for word and you're nervous. Now you're going to do that at the beginning, and that's perfectly fine. But listen, a doctor, they're required to study and take tests. You don't even have to take a test here. Okay. All you have to do is make sure you study. You read this real script and look, 100 times is not hard. I promise you, read it 2 or 3 times every single day for the next couple of weeks. You will be amazed of your progress. You will be amazed of your tonality through it. Because another thing you can't do, we talked about it on a couple of weeks ago, you can't change your tone if you're reading it because you're nervous, you're paying attention to the words word by word, and you're hoping you don't skip a spot and then you got to jump back, right? Like, how are you supposed to have really good tonality if you're focused on that? Right. So just that's one. I want to make sure we lay down that foundation. I hope y'all wrote that down. That is it. It's a very serious thing. If you're full time or part time, and you're trying to make this your income from in the insurance industry, like you have to take it that seriously, right? Like, and the reason I bring this up, I have agents that have been here for years and don't know this script. The agents that come and ask for advice and are struggling for years, they don't know the script. That's the like the number one reason they don't know the script. It's not even about their lead investment, is that they just don't feel comfortable, they haven't read it. It's no one's fault but theirs, right? Like, you have to understand that that's how important this is. You have to take this very serious. You have to know the real script. It ain't about just going through it. It ain't about hey, you know what, I can just skim through it and hit a couple of things. No, this is a $200,000 a year position. You are required to know the real script, and the I would say the biggest thing here is just no one actually requires you, right? It's a requirement for yourself because it's your own business, but you got to understand how to run a really good appointment. And then if you are also doing the slides, highly suggest you have your slides memorized, right? Like, I don't use slides. I just talk to my clients like this. My brother does the slides and he has them all memorized. He'll go through them. He does, right? It's he took it seriously, right? And just
Like
memorize.
clockwork, you memorize it.
Yeah. So he knows every slide that's coming up. It helps him set up the client right for the next slide. Like, there's just a really big difference of having them memorized than just reading through them. And then, my favorite phrase to say on that part is, do you know it by heart? Right? Because once you say the script, probably when you're like at the 20 times, when you've said it, when you've read through it like 20 times, you probably have it memorized. But my favorite thing to say is, do you know it by heart? And the difference between knowing it by heart and having it memorized is, if you have it memorized, you can probably just recite the whole thing. But if a client interrupts you or they throw you for a doozy, you cannot find your place anymore because they threw you off. Versus if you know it by heart, it doesn't matter what happens. You can always go back to it. So that's the difference of why you want to get to it. You want to get to reading it 100 times because you'll know it by heart after that, right? So and if you don't, keep going, right? Like, you got plenty of time. That's your learning curve, and get through it, but you got to take that really seriously. I'm going to start into the 10 things. I do want to make sure this is super interactive. Feel free to unmute, ask questions, as long as it's topic related, and we'll go through each step, right? And if y'all have any questions through there, right, like I said, feel free to unmute and ask questions. So we're going to start on the first one. The very first thing is rapport, right? So building rapport. Again, I want to emphasize when you're building rapport, there's nothing like a Zoom appointment. Okay, you can resist all you want. You can do phone appointments all you want. We're just telling you we've done the numbers, right? You're going to have a 30% higher close rate with a Zoom appointment. So if you're not getting the results you want and you're running phone appointments, I'm just telling you the easiest fix is running a Zoom appointment. There is nothing like rapport over Zoom. And I'm telling you that from personal experience. I do run a few phone appointments depending on the leads I'm working. It does not feel the same. If it doesn't feel the same, I can imagine how it feels for the client. It's completely different. You want to be able to write, depending on the lead you're working, but you want to be able to run a Zoom appointments. There is nothing like that rapport for the mortgage protection leads. So running a Zoom appointment, building rapport. So that's going to be number one, right? We're going to go through 10 steps. So number one, and then write this down, five to 10 minutes. Okay, 5 to 10 minutes. You want to be building rapport for 5 to 10 minutes, a minimum of 5, no more than 10. You do not need more time than 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, it gets really weird, right? It'll be too much rapport and it'll be too friendly. And what happens when it's too friendly is that their no becomes a lot easier, right? Or their think about it becomes a lot easier. So be very, very cautious with that. You do not want to build too much rapport because they're gonna give you a think about it, okay? Because it's going to be very easy for them. So you want to keep it. You want to be their friend, but you still want to be their professional helper, right? So that 5 to 10 minute window is really going to keep you there. When we talk about 5 to 10 minutes, a minimum of 7 questions. So write that next to it. You want to ask 7 questions. There's science in that. It's the fact that they're going to open up. And I always like to kind of dig into this a little bit because very often we stop building rapport because they give us pushback and they make it feel really weird. And my brother and I always go back and forth with this, and he always helps me. But so I'm going to, James, if you want to unmute, but just realize they're going to be very short and rude answers at the beginning. It has nothing to do with you. They just met you, right? But that's just how most of them go through. And you have to get to the point where they're talking, you're not asking questions and or nothing but questions, right? That you're actually having a conversation. And then I would say the biggest part of rapport building, be very, very careful of you only asking questions because it can quickly become an interrogation. And if it becomes an interrogation, you're going to get pushed back on a lot of things, right? So how do you avoid that? Write this down is you got to make a deposit before you make a withdrawal. So you got to make a deposit before you make a withdrawal. What's the best way to build rapport is they gotta feel you're at their level, you're friends with them. And if you're asking information of them, personal information, because that's how you build rapport, what are you giving of what information of you are you giving to them? Right. So if you're asking them about their dog, did you tell them about your pets? If you're asking them where they live, did you tell them where you live? If you're asking them about their kids, did you tell them about your kids? Right. Like it's only fair. If you are not giving information, right? So if you're not making deposits and you're only making withdrawals, means you're only getting information. That is an interrogation. Think about that, right? You never made a friend saying, "Hey, Amber, so where are you from? So how many kids do you have? So how do you do this? So how do you do that? Where did this happen? Where did that?" And then all of a sudden you're 7 questions in and they're just like, "What? I don't even know you. Why am I answering all these questions?" Right? So be very careful. You got to make deposits, right? So what does that exchange look like? And we're gonna make it like it really does happen. So the first 3 questions are very short, and this is where an agent usually shuts down. And they're like, "Nope, I'm gonna stop asking questions because this person's not in the mood." It has nothing to do with that. It's just this is how it's gonna play out, right? So hey, James, so thanks for hopping on Zoom. Looks like I got you in Arizona. Is that right?
Yeah, yep.
Right? One word answer. Okay, sweet. Are you originally from there?
No.
Like, what do we do with that, right? Like, there's nothing. It's okay. Oh, sweet. I'm also in Arizona now, right? I'm making a deposit. I'm also in Arizona now. I'm originally from Texas, San Antonio. Where are you originally from?
Oh, you know what? I'm actually from Texas too. Yeah.
Oh, sweet, sweet. What brought you over here? Family, work?
Family and work, actually both.
Sweet. Same thing happened to me. Right. I came first. Man, it was like 20 years ago almost. And then my parents retired. They moved out here. Then my brother, then my sister. And 20 years later, hey, we're still here. How about
Yeah.
you? Anybody else follow y'all?
Yeah, my sister, all my family, my parents moved out here. I don't know who bright idea was to move to the desert, but here I am in Arizona now.
Right? So as you ask more and more questions, I've made deposits and now they're talking more. That's what you want to get it to. Because in those 7 questions, you can get it pretty far to where they're doing the majority of the talking and even asking you questions. And I'll give you that as a challenge. If they're asking you questions, the rapport is on. Like it's that's really good rapport because they're trying to get to know you as well, right? So, and we'll keep going to just 2 or 3 more questions. Okay, sweet. And did you say work originally brought you over here, or you just moved? What made you decide to move to Arizona?
Work and family, so originally from Texas, from San Antonio actually. So I was born and raised there, and during the pandemic, I didn't know what was going on at the time, so I was like, well, let me move closer to family. So I ended up selling my house in Texas and moving closer to family. So
Right.
been here about 5 years now.
Wow. Wow. Any kids?
Yeah, I got one kid.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And where does he live?
He's out in Texas still, so he comes back and forth, see him on holidays. So he's already adult, so I don't think he's a kid. He's 19, about to be 20 next month.
Nice. Wow. 19-year-old. I got four. I got a two 13s, a 11, and one's about to be 7. So I'm
Oh
still in
wow,
the middle
yeah,
of it. Right, and that's literally how it sounds when you're doing it properly, right? So just make sure again you're going more than 7 questions deep if you have to. I think one of the books we read, it was like 7 to 15 questions. You also don't want to go past 15 questions, right? Because then again it becomes an interrogation. As you're building your questions that you like to, and get familiar with your questions. Look in the script, there are questions there. Use those as starters, but find something you like to ask about, right? So especially if you start to know the area that you're working leads, right? So like I personally work Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. I've worked several other states. In other states, asking where they're from or when they moved doesn't necessarily work that well, but it does work in New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, because we have a lot of people retire and come to these states. So we have a lot of Californians come over here, right? We have a lot of people from the north come right down to Arizona. So that question works for the area that I'm working, right? Just find something that's going to work for you. And then that way you're good at it, right? Like allow yourself to be good at the questions also that you're asking, and then also have them targeted to information you need, right? So I'm not just also building rapport. I'm also, right, I hate to say the word ammunition, but I'm gathering ammunition for my appointment, right? Because I'm asking, hey, did they have kids? Where do they live? I want to know where their kids live. I don't care how old they are, because a lot of times, right, especially if you have a single parent, right, and they're in their 60s or whatever, and their kids live right in different states, they're not going to move into their house. So it's giving me information that I'm going to be able to use, because more than likely equity protection, right, in 6 months or smaller policies are going to be more appropriate for that family, because I know that the kids are living in Wisconsin, they're in Arizona, they're not moving over here, right? They have their family over there, and so we just need a small policy to give that child right enough time to sell the house, get the equity out of it. So as you're building rapport, right, make sure they're also tactful questions, right? Do have some friendly ones, but right, you can know all about their basketball team, and that's going to be useless in the appointment, right? I'm not saying don't ask those questions. I'm saying on additionally make sure they're actually tactful questions, right, that are going to help you in your appointment. and every family is a little bit different. Again, you want to know the kids where they live if you're dealing with a single person, right? If they're telling you right they didn't have a spouse, so almost make that an automatic if you're dealing with a single person, right? Find out where their kids, if they're young and single, find out where their brother, sister, mom live, right? Ask questions like, does that, who else lives in the house with you as you're building rapport too? Because that'll help you, right? Find out if somebody lives in the house and that's the beneficiary, that means you need more coverage, right? Because your goal is going to become keeping them in the house, not enough time to sell the house, right? So just be very tactful of those questions because you're going to be able to use them later on. So that's rapport. Number two, we're going to go into role and purpose. And when we say role and purpose, I need y'all to write this down. It's going to be the other role and purpose. So we still have confusion in this. Okay. The other role and purpose is not the one in the real script. So we are still not in the real script, right? First step was we got them on Zoom, we built rapport. Now we're going to go into the role and purpose. We are still not in the real script, the other role and purpose. The other role and purpose is where you tell them what's about to happen. And I'm going to dig into this one because there's a lot of science built into this. I didn't create this. If you go into SoundCloud and you put Symmetry and do role and purpose, there's a ton of versions out there, right? We'll post and band my version again, and not even mine. I just grabbed all the Symmetry SoundCloud audios and kind of combined them into one from all the little things and notes that I would use. So I'm just gonna go into it, right? So we've built rapport, we got them on Zoom, I built rapport, I asked them all the questions, and I'm at the 8-minute mark, and I'm good and confident with my rapport. So I'm gonna just dig into them like, okay, well, thanks for telling me that, Billy. I want to be respectful of your time. So let me tell you my role and purpose. We literally say that. So let me tell you my role and purpose. Billy, my role and purpose is to simply find you the most amount of coverage for the least amount of premium. The way I get to do that is I work with all the insurance carriers. So you don't have to shop around. I'll be your one-stop shop. What I'm going to do in our appointment today, Billy, is I'm going to verify if we have any health conditions. I'm going to go over your budget a little, not to be nosy, just to see if it's something you even need. Not everybody needs this coverage. Some folks have $1 million in their bank account. Others have a rich uncle. I'm still waiting on mine, right? Normally not the case. So we are going to find a need for the coverage. Billy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I normally see everybody do. Once I show you those options, your job will be able to select a couple of the ones you like. Then what I do is I submit the application online today. Once I do that, it'll normally give me an instant decision. That means you're going to be covered as of today. And if not, it takes a day or two to get approved. But once it's approved, they'll draft out of your account and mail you a policy. Does that sound good? Everybody says yes. On the role and purpose, you really, really have to have this one memorized because it's all about tonality. You are not asking questions. You're not making them sound like questions. What I mean by that is, well, and if it's approved, they'll draft out of your account and then the policy will be issued. You can make it sound like a question. The role and purpose is, hey, they're going to draft out of your account, mail you your policy, and you have coverage in place as of today. Right? We're walking them through the experience. The whole point of the role and purpose, you'll hear this in some of the SoundCloud audios, it's so that you don't call what's called kidnap the client. Because what I want y'all to understand is if you do not do the role and purpose right there at the beginning, nothing up until this point has told the client you are writing applications in your appointment. Okay? Everything that they have experienced up until this point has told them they're going to get quotes and options given to them. Nowhere has it said you're writing an application and asking all these personal questions. The letter just simply said, hey, if you're looking into these options and you'd like to know more about this, respond to the form. You called them, set the appointment, and you said, hey, it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to get those options out to you. You've shown up on Zoom, they've shown up on Zoom, and you've built rapport, and you told them, hey, thanks for hopping on. Nothing up until this point has told them we're filling out applications and it's about to get real. If you don't do a proper role and purpose, that's probably the number one reason you get to think about it. And the number one reason you'll get resistance and they'll hang up on you, right? Or get off the Zoom and not let you finish the appointment because no one told, right? In on their behalf, right? You never told them what's about to happen. So realize the role and purpose is you're just guiding them through the experience that they're about to have, right? So don't feel shy about how you're saying that. I'm going to ask you health questions to verify and make sure I can do that. I'm going to ask you budget questions, right? And dig into that. Maybe you don't even need it, right? Maybe you have $1 million in the bank account. Okay. And so I'm going to go through the science inside the rules or the role and purpose really quick so that y'all can kind of understand why it's so important. So it begins with, hey, my job is to find you the most amount of coverage for the least amount of premium. Okay. Why that's so important is nowhere in there do we say we're paying off the entire house. Because very, very rare, you're going to pay the house off. You're going to always run out of budget before you can pay the house off. Okay. This allows critical period and everything else that you're going to show be okay. We're going to find you the most amount of coverage for the least amount of premium. That's my job. I work with all the insurance carriers. So I get to shop around for you and be your one-stop shop, right? Or however you want to say that. That lets them know they don't have to talk to other agents so that they don't tell you, hey, Jack, well, let me look into this and talk to someone else and get more information. No, no, no. That's what I do. I work with all the insurance companies. That's the science in that, right? What I'm going to do in the appointment is I'm going to verify all their health conditions. Why is that so important? Have y'all ever been stopped? And why do you need to know that? Why do you need to know about my heart attack? What does that matter about mortgage protection? I thought this was mortgage protection. What does it matter about my cancer? Okay, that gets rid of that. Then, hey, we're going to dig into your budget a little. So I'm gonna ask you some questions. Hey, some families don't even need it because they got $1 million in the bank account or a rich uncle. Ha ha ha. Everyone says, yeah, right. I don't have that. That allows you to say, that's pretty normal. That usually means we're going to need some coverage today. That puts their wall down and that makes it their idea because they just told you I don't have $1 million in the bank account, so we can't protect our home if I pass away. That brings their guard down, right? Then the next one is, hey, so if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I normally see other families do. Other families do puts them into a herd mentality. Make sure you do not say, hey, if you don't have, right, that's normal, you don't have that. I'm going to show you what I think is best for you. Do not put yourself as it's your idea. You're going to show them what other families do. You are not a salesman. If you say, hey, I'm going to show you what I think you should do, or I'm going to put some options together for you, you just became a salesperson. When you say, hey, I'm going to show you what other families do, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just showing you what other families do, not what I think or what I recommend. I'm going to show you what other families do. Because guess what? In their eyes, what you recommend is going to get you paid. So you become a salesperson if you tell them, I'm going to show you what I recommend. I'm going to show you what I normally see other families do. Then the big one, if you like any of those options, you'll be able to pick several of them. That allows them to know they're going to pick 4 applications, right? We want an accidental on each one and we want their mortgage protection. That's how we write 4 apps in a home, right? So I'm going to give you permission to say, hey, you'll be able to pick several of those. And then I just simply fill out the application for you today online. That way they're like, well, I'm not ready for that. No, no. We're telling you we're filling out an application today in the appointment. Once it's approved, it's gonna draft out of your account and they're gonna mail you a policy. Why is that so important? Don't be scared to say it's gonna draft out of their account because the only thing that can draft out of their account if you get their routing and account number. Okay, how many of y'all got pushback about bank information? I'm not giving you my bank information, right? That avoids that. There's a lot of science in that role and purpose, and it's all about the confidence that you say it with, right? And then at the very end, does that sound good to you? Perfect. Everyone says yes. If they're telling you no right there, it was never even an app. Okay, don't get bent out of shape. It's okay. Go on your way. Well, I'm gonna need your health conditions. I'm gonna need your bank and routing number, right, to move forward. Is that something you're gonna be okay with? No, I don't give that. Great. Sounds like I can't help you. Bye. They were never that's just their way of saying no, has nothing to do with, don't overthink it. They were just being polite. That's their excuse to tell you no or that they're not interested, right? They got themselves in this pickle of you booking an appointment and they had to show up. They don't know how to get out of it and they're just being nice. So they're looking for an excuse. So they're going to tell you, I don't want to give you your social, my bank. It's all lies. That's just their simple way of saying, I'm not interested. And it's a no. Just take it and be okay with it. Move forward. So that's the role and purpose. Any questions on the role and purpose before we move? All right. So now the real script. So this is now we're in step 3. We're barely at the real script. I hope everyone understands that, right? There are two, you're gonna say the role and purpose twice technically, right? The other role and purpose, and then when you dig into the real script, right, they have what's called the role and purpose, but it's different in the real script because basically you're going into details of the information you need. On the real script, when you jump into it, the main part is what's mortgage protection. Okay, that is the great setup. I used to love that first paragraph, and here I'm going to share my screen, make sure everybody understands what we're talking about. So here in the real script, right? So we've built rapport. If you're using slides, right, this is where you transition to your presentation and you show them your information. But my favorite part is right here. What is mortgage protection? This paragraph right here, up until this point. If you've executed everything properly and you go through this part right here, what mortgage protection, you almost get your yes, we're doing coverage right here. It is really cool when you set this up properly, right? So they've said yes to the role and purpose. They now understand what will happen in the appointment. Now it's just giving them clarity of what mortgage protection is because they're still a little confused. So I always love to go through it, right? Hey, I just want to make sure, Amber, you understand what mortgage protection is, right? If you don't already, it's still kind of like a life insurance policy that's designed to pay off the mortgage, right? In case a husband or wife were to pass away, it also makes mortgage payments for you if you were to get sick, right? We normally look at a couple of different options, right? The first option is we might look at the full mortgage payoff, right? And this is where you start bending them your way. If you know they're sick or they're 65 years old and you're going to have to do a critical period, this is where you take off the full mortgage payoff, right? Y'all have heard us train on that before. This is where you say, hey, the first option, right, is the full mortgage payoff. Usually not the option we look at, right? Because it's the hardest to qualify health-wise and it's the most expensive. You saying it like that, if you're dealing with someone that you already know has to go critical period, that takes it off the table. Okay. Now, the other way, if you know they're 40 and they're young and it's going to be easy to cover their $200,000 mortgage, hey, it's the other way around. Hey, so we're going to look at, right, the first option that we normally are going to talk about is the full mortgage payoff, right? It's going to have these living benefits. Luckily, right, you're young and healthy, so this is going to be the option that we're going to start looking at for you. The second option will be a partial, where we combine a couple of policies, right? Make sure with like an accidental, we have plenty of coverage. God forbid you pass that way. And we'll be able to do that again pretty easy because you're young and healthy. And then I don't even tell them about the third option, right? Don't need to talk about that. And then again, if it's the other way around, you need to take off the first and second option because you know that, right, they had cancer and they're 55. They're not qualifying for the full mortgage or the half, right? You need to take that off the table, right? You say those things like, hey, that's the most expensive, hardest to qualify. And if you know for a fact that they had cancer or whatever, maybe you can completely cross it off by poking the bear, right? By saying something like, hey, because of the cancer, right, these are off the table. You got to do that because if not, they're going to say, well, why not? Right? So don't be afraid, right? It's a tool, right? Remember, our job is to find them the most amount of coverage for the least amount of premium. So use the tools in front of you. If they've told you health conditions, that takes them off that, right? On insulin, hey, so because of the diabetes on insulin, right, these are not going to be the options. We're going to look at option 3, where we're going to get you time, right? We're going to make sure she has plenty of time. We're going to partner with another application, right, that accidental, that will pay off the entire mortgage, and we'll go through that later. Right. So again, you get to set them up right here. This is where you set the tone of what you're going to show them. So be very careful, because if you're going critical period and you say, hey, option one's going to be the full mortgage payoff, and you just read the script word for word there, it's going to bite you in the butt, because when you're showing options, they're going to be like, well, I thought you were paying off my house. Because again, on their side, you never told them you weren't. And everything that they've read showed them the possibilities of paying off the entire mortgage. So you got to be really careful there on what's mortgage protection. The health part, look, it's easy. Make sure you ask all the health conditions. But number four, so number four is going to be the FIF. And again, I want to make sure we're talking proper vocabulary. The FIF is not the FIF reset. That is not what you send to your SME. The FIF is the financial information form. This is where you diagnose the client if they even need mortgage protection. If you do this properly, guess what? One out of like 20 or one out of like 25 are not going to need coverage, because they have their finances in order. It's very rare, but there's going to be a few out there, right? But this is where you tell them, hey, you know what? You don't need mortgage protection, but we can service you in other ways. And you go into the FIF reset. But the FIF financial information, this is where you diagnose the client. You got to make sure you're very detailed, right? If you're following the script, which is going to be page, let's see, page 4, you got to follow this part right here. Get them to pull out a pen and paper. Make them do this with you. They have to see the numbers, because it's going to hurt when they see the reality of where they're at. Hey, Rodney, Amber, can you grab a piece of paper? We're going to go through, right, a little bit of the finances, and I want to make sure we're both on the same page and we're looking at the same thing. Right? Reading the script, we're going to do, right, draw a line right down the middle. We're going to have 2 columns, Amber. We're going to put Rodney on the left. We're going to put Amber on the right. Okay? I'm going to start a little bit into this. First, let's start, Rodney, what you've been doing for work. He tells me, great. How much income monthly is coming in? And I want to know net. I just want to know what's coming in. It's going to be 5,000 for Rodney. Great. Amber, right? Anything coming in from you? I work a little bit, right? It's 1,500 coming in. Perfect. Okay, so we got about 6,500 together total, right? And confirm everything. So about 65, because sometimes they say, no, it's more than that. Okay, what did I miss? Well, I have a blank, right? And I do a little part-time on the weekends, and that usually brings me another 500. Whatever it is, you need to know the solid number there, right? So once they give me that, okay, so 6,500 coming in. Hey, Rodney, I know the mortgage, right, was 1,200 going out. If we added all the other bills up, right, and we're talking about cell phone, credit cards, whatever it may be, expenses going out, what does that look like? Everyone's going to say, I don't know. Don't give up. This is where you're a professional. No worries. Let's go ahead and dig into this, right? And I'll add it up for you. Don't worry about it. So Rodney's cell phone bills, right? It's 150. What about a car? Oh, I have a new truck, 500. What is this, right? I mean, dig into it. You need to know for a fact what is going out. And then you're going to add it all up, right? We'll just say for numbers, it was $3,000. Great. So 3,000 plus your mortgage. So we're looking at 4,200. Is that right, Rodney? 4,200? That sounds about right. Perfect. So if we had 65 coming in and 4,200 going out, are y'all writing this down with me? Yes, we are. Okay, sweet. I just want to make sure y'all have the same number I do, right? It looks like it's about 2,300 left over. Is that right? Yes. A lot of times they're going to say, no, it's less than that. Perfect. What did I miss? I need to know this exact number, because this is where the gold's going to come out. Wherever you end up, let's say we ended up at the 23, great. The number one question you have to ask in the FIF, write this down, please. It's going to be, how much of that is going into savings a month? How much of that is going into savings a month? Oh, we have about 1,000. Okay, sweet. Or 500, whatever it is. Whatever number they tell you is going into savings, you can almost count on that as being available monthly payment for the options you're going to show them. Because that's what's going into a savings account. In case y'all don't know, life insurance is the greatest financial tool out there. Them putting money into a savings account does nothing. It is only $200, $300, or $500 a month versus if they have a $500 a month policy, they instantly have hundreds of thousands of dollars available if one passes. You have to understand insurance is a financial tool. There is no savings account that's going to be better than when they make a few payments or a couple of years and they pass away and the life insurance policy pays out 100 times more than what was in that bank account. Do not be afraid to find out what's in the savings account. What's in the savings account? Whatever they tell you, that's almost your budget, right? We want to leave them still saving cash that's available to them, but that's almost going to tell you how much you can, right, show them options for. So once you've done that, right, now we know, and digging into the FIF, I want y'all to write this down next to that number 4. It's going to be, this creates the why. So finding out the financial information from them, that creates the why. Because the next step is number 5, and that's the why. But you can't get to the why if you can't diagnose them, right? Because of number 4, the financial information, now I get to say, hey, Rodney, you pass away, that income goes away, right? Looks like Amber was bringing in 1,200. What do y'all have in place if you're gone? How does she maintain? Because it was 4,200 to maintain the home. And quiet. That's a very ugly question to ask. And let me tell you, it's going to be a natural reaction for you to answer. You're going to instantly try to jump in and be like, that's probably not a good thing, right? So let's look. Don't. Let them answer. Rodney, you're gone. Amber, do y'all have something in place to make sure, right? It looks like Amber won't be able to afford all this. What's in place now? Whatever they say, well, nothing. I understand. That's pretty. And then here, reinforce them now, right? Have some sympathy. That's pretty normal. Most families are in the same situation. Rodney, how does that make you feel? Right? You got to realize we get paid to ask very uncomfortable questions. No, it's insane of how families don't even talk about this. I'm willing to bet there's 77. I'm willing to bet 70 of y'all haven't had this conversation with your own spouse or other person. This is where we make our money, by asking these uncomfortable questions. And you got to realize, you haven't had them, that family in front of you hasn't had them. You get paid to have these conversations, right? And you get paid to have these conversations about death, right? Because I make the mistake on purpose, because I love to tell the family that, right? Like, hey, so Rodney, when, see what I did there, right? Because it's not an if. Okay, one day the maker's coming for every single one of us, right? Like, it's not a if, it's a when. So I love to always do that on purpose, because right, you'll have some funny families that are just going to be like, well, I don't plan on dying. Sure. Right? So just make sure you have the confidence to say that. That's going to allow you to create the why questions, and then stick to the emotional questions there, because this is where you get your actual, yes, let's do this right now. I don't care what it costs. Because if you right now are scared to show a $150 policy, a $300 policy, has anyone written a $500 a month policy? I can promise you haven't, because you're scared. And I want y'all to think about this, right? Love of my life is Sandra. Do you think there's a price on her? Do you think there's a price I wouldn't pay a month for her? Because that's what you're telling yourself when you're looking at options. You're like, oh, that's expensive. I better bring it down to $59. There is no price on protecting the people you love. Okay, people make a $500, $1,000 payment on a car. We're talking about protecting their spouses and their kids. There is no price. Do not be afraid to show whatever it takes, right? As long as it's in their budget, you now have that in front of you. But you can go up as high as you can. That's the go for no. The actual go for no is keep going until they say no, until they say it's uncomfortable, right, on price. But there is no price on someone's loved one. Okay, get that out of your head. There's no such thing as too expensive. People pay hundreds and thousands of dollars a month on all kinds of random stuff. TVs, cars, phones. Like an iPhone 17 is what right now? $2,000 or something crazy, right? Like there is no price on your loved ones. Do not be afraid to show them for whatever it's going to cost to protect them. So right, those emotional questions. The cool part is if you keep going down, there's a whole bunch of quality questions on page 5 on the script. Feel free to use those. Feel free to come up with your own depending on the situation. But the questions are already there. If you look at page 5, there's some with for the spouses, and then there's even a single one, right, where they're talking about the kids, who's going to take over, all kinds of stuff. Again, you don't have to create none of this stuff. It's already in page 5 of the real script. Me and James one time were like, man, we need to put something together. And we looked at the script and like, oh crap, it's already there. Okay, you don't got to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. So that's number 5. Number 6, programs. This is where you avoid the think about it. Okay, how do you avoid the think about it? Is you're going to tell them they're going to think about it. Okay, so once they've said yes, looks like we need coverage in place, perfect, I'm going to show you some options to help you with that. I got you. Okay, now before I show you the options, Rodney and Amber, what I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to put a couple of options that I normally see other families do. What I need you to do is promise me you're going to be able to tell me if they're not comfortable, right? I can go up, I can go down, right? I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you time to think about it. That way we make some decisions today to get that coverage in place. Do not be afraid you're going to tell them that they're going to think about it, okay? Because if not, guess what they're all going to do when you show them the options? You're going to finish and they're going to be like, well, thanks, Nathan, for showing me these options. Me and Amber need to think about it. Look, if you get to think about it, Joe Martinez here telling you how to avoid the think about it. Tell them they're going to think about it right now in the appointment. Look, it ain't rocket science either. You showed them their numbers. Okay. It does not take weeks, days, or anything to think about this. We now know their budget. It is affordable. We know everything going out, everything going in. This is a very, very good decision for them. Okay. There is nothing for them to think about if you do a proper appointment. So you're going to show them the programs. You're going to tell them they need to think about it. You're also going to make sure you explain the options very, very simple. Okay. Make sure you're not talking about, I'm going to show you a 10-year, a 15-year term. I'm going to show you living promise. We're going to use term life express. No, it's mortgage protection options and it's the accidental program. That's it. Super easy. Mortgage protection program, accidental program. Okay. Do not use the words of whatever the policy you're showing. They don't know. That's called insurance lingo. They don't know what that means. They don't know what TLE is. Okay. You're just going to say, hey, mortgage protection program. And you're going to keep it super simple, right? It's going to be $350,000 for the coverage, and it's going to be, right, $200 a month, whatever it is. Okay. Keep the options super simple. Show them. Once you finish showing them, make sure you also finish it with, hey, those are the options that I normally see families do. Feel free to pick whichever ones in any combination, right? You can get more coverage on one, less on the other, whatever y'all think is best to find you the most amount of coverage for the least amount of premium. Then we're going to step into number 7, right? So 6 was the programs, keeping it simple. Number 7, hey, so, right, you can combine whichever ones. Let me know which ones are going to work best for you. Rodney, I've been talking all day. My throat is dry. I'm going to give you that time to think about it. Like I told you, I'm going to go grab some water. I'm going to mute myself. I'll be right back.
Hey, honey bun, what are you thinking?
So what are we doing?
Think I should go full mortgage protection for you? Half? Or maybe a couple months before you find someone else. All right, I'll get you the full one. Oh, he's
All
back.
right, yeah, the full.
Listen, it's funny. I'm standing behind my computer. You hear them having these conversations. It is the coolest thing ever. Please make sure you do the water trick so that they can think about it. Okay. Look, this is still personal. They want it, right? They're going to have that conversation. I can't tell you how many times I'll hear, right? Because we're just standing behind my computer and I can hear the wife saying, no, but babe, if you're gone, what am I going to do? And he's like, oh, can we afford the full thing? She goes, we'll make it work. I can't tell you countless times we've had that. I've heard that over Zoom. Allow them to have, they can't have that conversation in front of you, right? It is a little weird. Okay. So make sure you give them time to think about it, right? Not tomorrow, not the next week. Do it inside your appointment. Make sure and it's not, do not ask them, right? Like, hey, can I give you some time? No, just get up and walk out, right? You've showed the options. Hey, so those are all the options, Billy. You can pick whichever ones you like. I've been talking all day. I'm going to go grab some water. This is going to give you time to think about it. I'll be right back. I ain't asking. If they start talking, I mute and walk out. You got to give them time to think about it. It is not an option, right? You do the water trick. I promise you, the water trick alone will put money in your bank account if you're not using it. So make sure you add that. That's number 7. Number 8, right? Number 8 is write the app. Please write that down. Write the app. Okay. They're going to tell you yes in so many ways, and it's not a yes. What do I mean by that? They're not going to say the word yes. They're not going to say that. They're not going to say, let's do this one and this one. It's going to sound so different for every family. I think we could afford that. That looks good. Looks like babe, Amber's going to want this one. Don't ask that. They just told you yes. You're just not hearing it because you're nervous, and you're probably blown away because they're telling you we can probably do these, right? The full coverage on all 4. And holy crap, that's $400 a month. And you're too nervous to hear they're telling you yes. And you talk them out of it by like, well, so you're talking about the $355 one, and then so that's the also for your wife, that was another 120. Stop. They said yes. Okay. Pull the trigger. Just move on to the app. Make sure you're ready for it. Okay. So that means before your appointment, before whatever options you had, you should have had that carrier website ready to go. Do not hit log in because they all time out. But that way it's ready to go. You're in that website and you hit log in. Once they say that looks good, I think we can afford that. We can probably do that. It's going to be a little tight. Listen to this one. It might be a little tight, but it sounds like it's something we should have. That is a yes. That is a yes. You're just not going to hear a perfect yes. Pull the trigger and write the app. They're not going to stop you, I promise. How do you do that? It's simple. Great. I'm going to get that application started for you, Rodney. I'm just going to confirm everything first. I got Rodney spelled as R-O-D, right? And you just go into it. Do not ask questions. Okay. Write the application. One thing I love to do, look, we're all nervous. I get it. I think one of the most nervous things to do is ask for bank information and social. Most of the applications instantly ask for the social, right? That means it's like the name and then height, weight, social. Okay. Remember, it can easily become an interrogation and they feel uncomfortable. The social is the last thing I get. I get a whole bunch of information and I get the flow going, right? Perfect, Kevin. So I got the name, right? Kevin Walder. How do you spell that? Blah, 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 blah. Great. So I got your date of birth. It's this, height, weight. Perfect. What is the address? Okay, perfect. And just to confirm, I have that. Yep, awesome. We're doing, once I get to, before I can hit, right, validate on the application, then it's like, okay, sweet. And then what was the social? And just like that, cool, collect, right? You've already been asking a whole bunch of questions. It's nothing at this point. You got to feel nothing for it either. Great, sweet, Kevin. And what was that social? Blah, blah, blah. Great. I'm just going to confirm that and just move on. Same thing when you get to the bank information, right? Just you don't make it weird, right? And it is weird when it's like the third thing you ask, right? Hey, Amber. So Amber Blair, great, date of birth. Yep. Your social. It's a little too front for me. Okay. If you pull it off, great. I still personally don't do it. I go through everything. I make them feel like I have their information. Hey, I got your address. It's this, right? And I validate all that stuff and makes it so much easier.
I do the same thing, Joe. I even throw in, all right, great. Last question on the first page here. What's your social? And then they're like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, great. You're going to get a text message here, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Make it super simple. So that's number 8. Number 9 is going to be the lockdown. Look, tie these puppy in. We're not the only ones in the industry. There are other insurance agents. There's other mortgage protection companies. You need to make sure you lock it down. Again, it's in the script. I'm going to give you my lockdown. Hey, Amber, I just want you to know what the next steps are. First, you're going to get 2 emails. The first one's going to be the application. The second one's going to be logins to your application. You can go in there, create your logins, do whatever you need. You don't have to print anything. The application's actually going to come in the mail. Second thing is I'm going to stop all those letters from coming to your home. I know you're probably bombarded by them. It does take a few weeks. So I'll put that stop. If you get any more letters, feel free, right? I'm showing, feel free, throw it away. If anyone else calls you, you can let them know Joe Martinez already took care of you. If they don't know who I am, they're not part of our company, so you probably shouldn't be talking to them about this. Listen to how I said that. That makes it great to where they can you cut everyone's feet behind you, right? Hey, if they don't know my name, that means they're not part of this, so they shouldn't be talking to them. I'm sure you get a whole bunch of phone calls from all kinds of stuff. Oh yes, everyone's been calling us for all. Great. You can just tell them you can just hang up on them. You don't need to, right? So if you get hung up on, it's probably because you're calling my lead. Stop it, right? I tell them that, and then I tell them, hey, if you hear anything else and you don't understand anything, feel free to give me a call. I'm here to help. If you can't make a payment, anything happens, I'm here to help you, right? Then you're going to do that's how you tie it down, lock that puppy in. No one's going to come in behind you and underquote you, which it's going to be rare because no one can. Then it's the FI. So that's the lockdown. And then number 10 is FIFs and ASRs. Okay. You got to ask for referrals. You got to be super, super profitable. We have a lot of return. We can make a ton of money only if you're asking for FIFs and referrals. Okay. If you uncovered in the financial information that they have 401ks, they are saving over 500, 200, whatever it is, they got a lot of money that they're putting away, right? That is an FIF reset like no tomorrow, right? If they got debt, just about everyone, make sure you are, and really it's next step, what you should be doing, okay? And the way you're going to word this is, okay, perfect. So we got that taken care of. Hey, Rodney, the next step is you did tell me about that 401k. I'm not the expert, but the next thing is I'm going to set you, I'm not giving him an option. Rodney, the next step is I'm going to set you up with my expert in retirement, because you do have that. They're going to look at that for you just to make sure it's the right thing in place, right? We're a whole package deal, right? We're going to make sure you're taken care of. So is tomorrow at 3:00 good? Yes, boom. I just set an FIF reset and I didn't ask for it. I told them it was the next step. Okay, we don't add FIF resets. It is part of the process. You should have a minimum of 5 FIF resets a week. You're not asking for permission. That's number 10. It's, hey, so the next step is, right? You told me you're saving 1,000, right? If you can emphasize whatever you found in there, that's going to make them feel a little more comfortable. But again, hey, just the next step is, I'm going to set you with my specialist for retirement, because it's going to make sure we have everything in place to take care of you and your spouse. Tomorrow at 1:00 good for you? Great. And then I'm going to put any notes, right, that it's going to help Rodney set for that FIF. It is not an option. It's just simply the next step, part 10. It's number 10, right? So if you're not setting FIFs, you're not following our step number 10, right? And then make sure you get referrals. Rodney, we work off of referrals, right? Do you know anyone else that had just purchased a home? And then wait. If they say yes, perfect. What's their name? Dig into that. I don't know. Okay, great, sweet. I also do life insurance, burial, final expense, all that good stuff. Does your mom and dad have coverage as well? I don't know. Great. What's their phone number? I can reach out and make sure they have something in place. Don't be scared. Dig into that stuff, right? Like you can help them in so many different ways, and you can continue to get that. You want a good ROI? Get an ASR and get an FIF reset. So that's all 10 steps. I hope that's super, super helpful for y'all. And we'll see you on the next one.